I remember leaving the house, getting into the car, crying. I didn't leave the house with the intention. I just remember this overwhelming feeling that I'd had enough of it all, the working hard, giving everything I can to life, feeling like I was getting constantly kicked down. The only option would be if I slipped my wrist, that it would be all over. All I remember is hearing a voice saying, "Don't."
First of all, thank you for listening to my story. Your story is equally as important. You are equally as important. You're stronger than you realise.
A massive shock because he was only 9 and I think that made me emotional. He didn't understand either.
Everyone's got a story and it all carries a powerful message. It all carries a powerful message.
Head Cases Podcast, hosted by Damo Sims and Nick Stoppani.
Hello, welcome to episode 2 of Head Cases Podcast, Britain's freshest mental health talk show, with my good pal Damo Sims and myself, Nick Stoppani. On today's show, Damo and I will be speaking with a guy called Jack, who quite frankly is a phenomenal artist, and he has faced struggles with his own mental health, and he wants to come on the show and share his story.
Yeah, and do you know what, Nick? I've seen some of his artwork, and it's exceptional. Amazing. His artwork is. Yeah, looking forward to speaking with Jack shortly. And it really is easy to get interactive with the show yourself. So the WhatsApp number, if you'd like to contact us, is 07822 010819. And if you're outside of the UK, because I know we've got some international listeners now, then please dial +44 and omit the first 0. The number once again is 07822 010819.
We have a list of helplines and websites available on our own website at headcasespodcast.co.uk, and you will also find links to all of our social media channels. In fact, Josh from Facebook, he's commented and said, look, a great first episode. I appreciate Melissa and Matthew sharing their testimony and being so open about their experience and some of the challenges that they faced. Looking forward to the next one. Well, Josh, this is the next one, so I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, and Nick, just changing tack slightly, because I know this is big news now. Since the government's news on possible benefit changes to those with mental health conditions, many people have been worried and panicked. So Martin Lewis from TV has posted this message on his Instagram.
Martin Lewis, is that the chap from the money-saving expert?
It's the very same one, yes. Now, he said nothing has happened. The government have put on an early stage consultation. These things are not quick, and this is a general election year. So if it'll happen at all is the question. This type of debate has given attention to create political news and put clear water between parties in election year. Sadly, that can have a real human impact, terrifying people about changes that may never even happen. So if you're worried about it, I know it's easy to say and hard to do, forget it. But from now on, it's still political hot air.
Forget it. It is so much easier to say, Damo. Yeah. It really is. Well, do you know what? There's a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of comments on that post from Martin. And a lady called Patsy commented, and she said, surely if you have a diagnosed condition, you don't need to worry. It's a proven fact, though, that working can help some mental health conditions. Socialising is good. This is to stop all the false claims and benefit cheats. That's got to be a good thing. I'm all for stopping anybody lying and cheating to claim benefits, and I'm all for helping people get back to work in whatever capacity they can manage. Also, Glampire Hex, what a cool name that is, responded and said, happened or not, it has caused me sleepless nights and a rapid decline in my mental health condition. I came across a comment by Penny from Hope Found in ME on Martin's post and decided to reach out to her for a conversation regarding the government's announcement. Now, although Penny wasn't available for a phone call, she did send us a voice note on WhatsApp. Here's her message.
Thank you so much for inviting me to make a contribution to your podcast. My name is Penny. I am the author of the blog and podcast Hope Found in ME, a about living with chronic illness and the energy limiting condition MECFS. It's difficult to summarise how one feels about the government's recent proposals, which will impact people with mental health conditions, the disabled and chronically ill. My first reaction was one of sadness. It's heartless. An obstacle is being put in the way of people with mental health problems who wish to receive support from their GP. The GP would be their first port of call beyond friends and family. If they can't go to family or friends for support, a GP may be their only support. Folk may now hesitate more before seeking help, as they face needing to justify their need for help to another party, which is stressful in itself. It feels as if the government perhaps doesn't trust GP's judgment, which is, as I have said, incredibly sad and baffling. Being part of the chronic illness community, it is not difficult to notice that there is an overwhelming sense of unrest, being resigned to more challenges, and fear. Yes, fear. It is a strong word. The charity Scope has described the situation as an assault on the disabled. Developing a chronic illness, becoming disabled, having a mental health condition is not a lifestyle choice. It can happen to anyone without warning and is life-changing. No one is immune. It can and does change the direction of life completely. These changes can be so costly in so many ways for the individual, far too many to mention here, but part of which is much needed aids and adaptations which are invaluable. Life is expensive being disabled. People are fearful of having much needed support removed. Where mental health conditions are concerned, there is, as quoted by the mental health charity Mind, 1.9 million people waiting to receive help from mental health services. And I think the language around this situation could go on to cause an atmosphere for people with mental health conditions to be further stigmatised. And I do understand how it feels. Having a chronic illness myself that is much maligned and misunderstood, attitudes which convey a huge amount of stigma, a condition which lacks funding, a situation recently discussed in the Houses of Parliament, Westminster Hall debate this past week, led by a politician whose extended family have experience of MECFS. People need support. They need empathy. They need understanding. They need to know that there is help there for them without judgment. And I guess that is the overriding feeling one has from the dialogue that's going on at the moment, is that people are being judged. And sadly, it seems to be the continuation of the spotlight being put on the vulnerable, which again is incredibly sad. Is that the kind of society we want? It may sound idealistic, but we either live in a society that cares for and about the sick and the vulnerable, or we don't. And I know which kind of society I wish to live in.
A big thank you to Penny. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity for a more in-depth conversation with Penny one day on the show. Yeah, well, as you can imagine, this story has been covered everywhere in recent days. And do you know what? I read some of the comments on a YouTube video earlier today. One said, "Attack the most vulnerable in society. Strange how there is never any talk about the 19 billion in benefits that go unclaimed every year." And somebody replied with, "Absolutely, all areas are left with huge amounts of unclaimed benefits. Where is the money going?" Do you know what, Damo? I never really thought about it like that, but that is
That's a lot of money. I think somebody needs to go down the rabbit hole there, mate, and have a little look into that. Perhaps we can do that in a future episode.
I think we need to. I do think we need to. Okay, are you ready for today's guest, Damo?
I most certainly am, mate.
Now, since announcing on social media that we're seeking individuals to share their experiences regarding mental health, we received a response from our next guest, Jack. Now, Jack reached out to us via our website at headcasespodcast.co.uk, and we are delighted to have him join us. Jack, thank you so much for speaking to Damo and myself. First of all, can we just go back to little Jack? What was your life like growing up as a child?
Growing up, I was very fortunate because, I had a strong family. I had my mum and dad, my brother, my grandparents. I had lots of sport, and growing up, I was very fortunate because I did a lot of things, went to a lot of places. I always had that sport, and I was very fortunate to have what I did as a child. I know that growing up, I had a lot of problems in school, going back to primary school. I've always struggled with attendance and never really liked going to school. And a lot of the time it was because even bullying started in primary school.
Right.
And that obviously had a toll when I come home. I ended up in CAMHS counselling at a young age because I had, lots of problems.
Was that due to bullying?
Most of it was because, I never liked going to school because I was the odd kid out, I was quite chubby when I was younger. I didn't really hang around with a lot of kids. I was kind of like a social outcast. I guess I always have been. Even when I grew up into my teens, I was still the same. And, coming home, I'd obviously be upset and everything.
What kind of an age were you then when you can remember like kind of that bullying part of your life started?
I can't remember the age, but it was around year 4 where it got to its worst, where I was not wanting to go in primary school and stuff. I can remember vividly because there was a teacher, he used to come out every morning and pick me up to try and encourage me to come to school. I ended up in anger management classes as well, which was through school.
Can you remember a point when it was suggested to you that there was some kind of help out there and anger management might be able to help you? Can you remember that conversation?
It's harder to remember it from a younger age. It's easy to remember the stuff like that in my teens. But when it was a younger age, a lot of it was obviously mum and dad sorting it with school and sorting it with CAMHS and stuff. And then, I'd be taken to these sessions and stuff at a young age. But I know from, when I've talked to my mum about it as I'm older, she's even said herself, when I was a lot younger, it was just, I was angry all the time, I was upset.
I'm keen to know, what support did you and your family have from the school at the time?
Like I said, we had a teacher who I can remember quite well because I had like a bit of a bond with him, so they kind of tried to get him to talk to me to try and like de-escalate me to get me come to school and stuff.
Right.
And a lot of the time it did work. They did manage to get me go with him, go to school. It's difficult because one of the problems was in primary school as well is I actually got bullied by an adult, which made it 10 times worse.
You are joking.
And that was one of the big triggers for me.
Would you mind expanding on that? Because what you've just said there...
It wasn't a teacher. It was someone who come in from... The only reason I'm not going to mention where is because at the time, because my dad was ready to take a load of action against him for it. But a certain... I'm trying to think of a way of wording it without saying who it is. But they sent a group of trainers out for football and stuff.
Mm.
Okay. And these would come in weekly to help with PE and stuff and to try and help in the community. And one of these trainer guys used to take the mick out on me for my weight. And because I used to wear these greyish-white joggers and jumper. I can remember he used to call me the Michelin Man.
Oh.
And as a kid, that just smashed my confidence to pieces and just, it's upset me all the time. And Mum and Dad didn't know why I was getting upset all the time until I eventually told them. And obviously, Mum and Dad were massively upset.
Why didn't you feel that you could talk to your parents, Jack, initially?
you know, thinking about it deep down, I think what it is it's like, because it was an adult that it was coming from, it's like that initial thing, you don't really want to speak up. And with bullying, you kind of consume it all because you don't want to speak out about it until it gets to a point where it gets you that down and upset where you have to tell someone.
Yeah. But when you did, was it a huge relief? And how did the reaction from your mum make you feel?
Well, they instantly supported me. They went, first thing they did was straight down school and demanded to know what was happening, why, this person had said these things to me and everything. And then it went further because obviously the group the school had partnered with to bring these people in. Yeah. Obviously then the school wanted answers. So it became a very, very big issue. And then my dad took lead on it a lot, and he went and sat down with this company, and they come to an agreement, and basically.
Were they apologetic?
Well, one got an apology. Yeah, oh God, yeah. Right. I can remember that, yeah.
I mean, Damo, I'm just thinking to myself whilst I listen to Jack, I don't ever remember anything like that happening to me, or, when I went to different groups and activities and third-party people came in to the school. It was a nice experience. I think if I had what Jack, because I'm quite a big guy, maybe put on a little bit too many, Damo, in recent years. But when I was at school, I was all right. Yeah, I was decent. But my point is, if I had an experience like Jack has just said, I don't know how I'd handle it, because at that age, you're a sponge, aren't you?
Well, I was just about to say, in fact, I'm writing some notes down now while we're talking, like I always do. And the thing I've written here is the bullying that you went through at school, Jack. Do you think that you still... I mean, it's a very, very, very influential time of anybody's life. That's when you develop. That's when you soak everything up. That's when you set your stall out sometimes in life. Do you think that there's some remnants of that still exist in your life today? Do you think that you carry any of that with you?
Oh, 100%. Because I still suffer with insecurity massively.
So that's a powerful point to make, and people don't realise that what people do as kids, if your kid's bullying somebody, or if your kid's being bullied, that could set them up for the rest of their life. People don't understand the power of that. Mate, I honestly, I've known you for a little bit, as you know, and I consider you as a good friend. I didn't know what you went through there, so I'm really sorry you went for that yourself, mate. I really am.
Well, it's like I say, once I got out of primary school and into high school, it didn't stop then. It's like it got worse. And then, because obviously as you get older, and when you're in your teens, teenagers can be teenagers. And it got to a point where it was 10 times worse in high school, like I say. And for years, from like year 7 till year 9, it got worse from 7 till 9, and it just gradually kept going, just to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And then in year 10, I refused to go into school completely. And school tried their hardest. Again, mum and dad were working with the school to try and get me going. And I was just flat out refusing at this point. And obviously, when we're being older, it's a lot harder. In year 10, it's not like I'm a kid anymore. They can just put me in the car and take me. Jack, and try and get me in the door. It's like...
Jack, can I ask? I've seen how talented you are on social media. I mean, if anybody, my goodness me, this man is... oh, wow. I mean, your work is absolutely awesome. Did you have that skill as a child in your teens?
I had it from when I was in primary school. The teachers were like dumbfounded by it because I could draw extremely detailed stuff in a very young age compared to other kids. I'd be putting details and everything in drawings. So it's always been there.
Do you think it's helped you in any way with your journey with mental health over the years?
It has and it hasn't at the same time.
Okay, interesting.
It's weird because it's like, it does help because it can be an escape, something to focus on. And at the same time, it became something as I got older, as a lot of pressure because I had a lot of expectation, because obviously of how talented I was in people's eyes. People expected me to keep excelling and excelling and excelling. And
do you think that though, came from the fact that you were bullied at a young age and by the sound of things, through your teenage years, that kind of vulnerability? So you were always questioning yourself because other people were constantly attacking you. Do you think that might have something to do with just the acceptance that you are an exceptionally talented artist?
Yeah, and I think what makes it hard as well is, like you say, with people bullying at the same time, it's like... I got to a point where I was trying to prove a point to people. Like I was trying to fit in something that I wasn't as well. And that's the weird thing. If I can give advice to anyone who is going through bullying at a young age, don't try and fit in or try and be them or try and, be the popular kid or something, because that just makes it worse. I've done that. I've tried it and it didn't work. It just makes them take advantage of you more. All I say is just be yourself. And I did have I got some help during the year 10 years from a tutor who was teaching me the tattooing side of the artist world. And he was the one who basically told me, well, just be yourself and be you. And, if people don't like that, then...
That's right. Tough.
You can assholes, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. Shove off. Absolutely. I mean, this is what makes us all unique, and we're our own people. We're our own person, aren't we? I often say, what a boring world it would be if everybody was the same. Can you imagine that?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, can you imagine two Damos?
I was thinking the same about you. I couldn't cope with that.
Talk to us about the therapy that you've had in the past. What's worked, what hasn't worked?
Well, they initially tried CAMS growing up in my early childhood and teens, and I had that through high school, where I was speaking to a therapist once a week. She was lovely. She was an artist as well, so it was someone I could relate to. And I did form quite a good bond with her and opening up and that, and she did help a lot. And then at the same time, they had me with a therapist, they had me with a psychiatrist as well, who in my teens diagnosed me with OCD, which obviously I didn't really understand. And I'll be truthful, I still don't understand a lot of it today. Because a lot of people think it's just people, super clean, constantly washing their hands or organising stuff, and it's a lot more than that.
So what is OCD to you? How does it affect you then, Jack?
So my understanding of my own OCD is it's like I can get a thought that comes into my head and it can become an obsession, and then I'll keep obsessing over that thought, and then I will need something to relieve it. And if I don't do something, it'll just get worse and worse and worse. So I think something drastically bad is going to happen. And it's
so the thought that you're saying something that you've got to do or achieve, or something bad's going to happen, which I'll be honest with you, strangely, I can actually understand this because I've experienced this myself. I've never really talked about this, but were the things that you wanted to achieve that came into your head, were they rather mundane things that the gravitas, if you didn't do it, was so great compared to how small probably the thing that you needed to achieve was?
Sometimes they were like the mundane things, but a lot of the times they were elements around like relationships and friendships where it was at its worst. That's why I suffered the most, because I could get obsessive thoughts and then I'd be getting doubts. And once I get a thought of doubt on something, it's like impossible to get rid of. And that's one of the worst things about it, because it's like I constantly doubt myself.
I'm interested to know, though, Jack, did you recognise the symptoms, so to speak, at the time?
In a way, no. And to be honest, it's funny because it's like, even though he's told me I've got it, it's like I will doubt myself and believe I haven't.
Right.
And I can get that thought come in my head, and then I'll think, well, I haven't got that. And then I'll start believing the thoughts, because it's like I believe the doubt all the time. And then I'll just hyper-focus on a thought, and this is why I ended up in a talking therapy, because he was basically trying to help me voice the thought, just from talking about it.
Yeah.
And then try and find reason and find is this thought like the truth? Is it, is it something that is true, or is it something that I've created in my own head? And that's the hard part, because it's like, half the time it's like a battle inside my head trying to figure out what's true and what's not.
Can I open up to you, Jack, now? And
yeah,
dear listener as well, to you, thank you so much for choosing to listen to the Head Cases podcast. And to you as well, Damo. Now, before my daughter was born, my daughter's now 8 years old, and I had my brother, his wife, and my niece, so their daughter, living, because I was back at mum's house. And my relationship had broken down, and I was grieving, because that is a grieving process, an end of a relationship. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I had this image in my head. It only lasted literally a couple of seconds. An image of my niece laying down, injured. I kept this to myself for a few weeks, and wow, I was not good. So I ended up speaking to somebody, and they urged me to go to the doctor. I went to the doctor, and they put me in touch with a private therapist. And it turns out what I had experienced is something called an amygdala hijack. Yeah, well, the amygdala gland controls emotional regulation in the brain. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was all brand new to me. Still, I don't fully understand
I've never heard of these. Are we talking that basically your brain steps in and creates something to influence you in your conscious life, that you see things and things can happen that aren't really happening to you? Is that what we're on about?
Yeah, I mean, I saw an image, so it wasn't nothing physical. I saw an image. It was literal. I remember it to this day. It was when I was walking from the bathroom to my bedroom. This flash image, clear as day, came to me. And I thought, why am I thinking that? Why? What on earth has caused that?
Did it help you, the fact that you got a name for it, you got it diagnosed?
Absolutely. I mean, it was a tough time talking, to this therapist, and I was one of these people that thought, I don't need counselling, I don't need therapy.
Yeah,
I understand also, like we said previously, it's not for everyone. You've got to find something that resonates with you, and you know what? Fair play to people who just continue. Can
I ask Jack the same question? Did you feel better once you'd had a name for the conditions that you were going through? Did it help you at all?
Not really. Like I say, I started making myself believe that I didn't have nothing wrong with me. It got to a point where I believed I was fine, and it sounds crazy, but it's like I believed my own delusion that I was fine and that there was nothing wrong with me. I'm in control of my own head, and I don't need anyone's help. I don't need anything.
Similar to an alcoholic.
You have to accept.
You've got to accept it first.
That's the key to it. A key to a lot of mental health issues is saying, I have this problem. Is saying it out loud as well to somebody else. So, Jack, can we obviously come through your teenage years. Your journey doesn't stop there with mental health. Can we talk a little bit more about kind of over the last few years how things have been for you?
So, coming after school, I was doing a tattoo apprenticeship in my teens, and he helped me a lot with my mental health, but he also in the end destroyed a lot of it. And I think that was because I got promised a lot of things, got told a lot of things, and then I never heard from the man again, and he cut me off one day like I was nothing. The tattoo artist I was working for.
And there was no explanation whatsoever. He just ghosted you.
So we'd known him for years, from when I was early teens, through my dad, because my dad was having tattoos off him. And he noticed my art and my talent, so he said, I'll take you on. And he used to go to the studio every week, see him and watch and, help out, clean, do things. And in a way he became, because I had no friends going through school, as was with the bullying and everything, I was, like to say, the social outcast, and I didn't like being around people, so he became the only friend that I had. So I became very dependent on him very quick, and he became my best friend. I did everything with him. We went tattoo conventions. I was always around his house. So he became this, like, as I say, like a third parent to me, but as well my best friend. he promised me all these things. He was like, one day, you know, you'll take over the shop and be this tattooist, and all these dreams that I had growing up. And I stopped going to the studio as much, and we didn't, you know, contact was a bit less. And then after my mum and dad got divorced, and, you know, I was going through a rough patch then, just one day, never heard from him again, blocked me on everything. I didn't know why, nothing.
He blocked you?
Yeah.
From people that you've had growing up, had you had a lot of good friends up until this point, or was he like the kind of first person you had a really strong friendship with?
He's probably the first person I had that proper friendship with, because of, you know, I could go to him about anything. You know, he was teaching me all these things about tattooing. He was helping me with my art as well. So for me, it was like
a shattering for you, surely.
Well, I'll be honest, for the next 3 or 4 years after it, could not accept it.
Have you accepted it now, Jack?
Yeah, I've accepted it now. Good. Because I, you know, if someone said to me, well, would you want to speak to him? Would you want to answer? I'm like, no. The answer was he wanted nothing to do with me. I don't know why, but I don't need to know why.
Even listening to you, Jack, now, I can't get my head over that. I can't.
Well, Jack's obviously as well, if you think about his life and what he's been through, his story, it must have taken an awful lot for him to drop them barriers, the bridges, and say, I trust you, I want to be a friend, and I want to get close to you as a friend. So you've offered, so you've exposed yourself so much to somebody, and then for them to do that to you, it must bring the walls crumbling back down again. Like, you know, your barriers go up, and you probably feel like as though, can I do that again? Can I trust somebody?
It created such a trust issue in me. It's unbelievable. I still don't trust people fully today because of it. So it still has an effect from it, because for me to trust people is very hard.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that big time. Yeah.
And, you know, at the time he did it as well, Mum and Dad had just split up, going through a divorce. I'm 16 years old. I've not got a clue what's going on. Just come out of high school, dropped out of college because I couldn't cope with my mental health. So, come out of that, doing nothing at home. Best friendly is Mum and Dad get broke up. It's like everything at the age of 16 that happened between 16 and 17. So hard. It just, that was why it took a massive turning point on myself, because, you know, not only that happening with my best friend, I had to deal with that, but then I had to deal with the fact that, you know, my mum and dad just split up. Mum wasn't in a good way. Mum's mental health started declining, and Mum's mental health got to a point where she was getting in bad relationships with new people who, you know, abused her, treated her like crap, and spent from 16 to like 20 watching that, hearing it. And then once Mum was out of these relationships, that's when the aftershock come, because that's when, you know, my mum turned to drink. She became an alcoholic, and she was taking, you know, overdoses, trying to, you know, end her life. And it was from like after 17, I realised I had to put my own mental health on the back burner. And I had to kind of take that position of, you know, trying to help her. And I'd sacrificed, you know, relationships, friendships, going to work, anything like that at that age, because I wanted to make sure my mum was looked after. And, you know, I did my best and try and make sure she didn't do anything to herself, because getting her better was more important to me than my own.
Well, can I say how strong you are, Jack? Because clearly you needed help during that time, but you put your mum first and her needs first.
And one of the things, you know, when she took overdoses in the past, and some of them have been just awful.
Yeah.
You know, I've put her in recovery position. She's she's choking her own vomit. I'm having to make sure she doesn't choke and that she can breathe while ambulance are on the way. Some of them have been graphic, and to see that, even at the age of 17, 18, seeing that.
It's hard to see that at any age, let alone 17. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's like when we were up hospital every other week, and you kind of see the same people and nurses and sometimes the security guards, obviously, because they're concerned about her well-being. And, one of them said to me once, but I've seen people come up here doing the same thing, and the family members they just give up and they don't care, and they stop doing it and stop trying. And I'm like, I can't, because I'd rather make sure that everyone else is okay before myself. And I know you should always think about yourself, but to me, especially my mum, because my mum is the person who brought me into this world. She carried me for 9 months. If it means me helping her when she's at the worst, then so be it.
No, that's lovely, Jack. That is lovely. Yeah. But it is so, so important to look after ourselves, because if we can look after ourselves, then that enables us to look after others when we need to, even better.
Do you know a strange analogy that somebody once said to me, and it's dead true? If ever you're flying on a plane, the instructions that they give to you is that if the masks are deployed for you to put them on, you must put them on yourself before you put them on your children, which sounds weird. But the reason that is if you aren't conscious, you can't help your children. So it's the same in life. You've got to be okay first, or you can't help everybody else. Because while you're looking at everybody else, Jack, and you know this anyway, while you're looking after your mum so selflessly, like I've been doing, and while you're caring for everybody else, and while you're thinking about against all these nasty, horrible, and I wish I could say a lot of worse words right now, but you've gone through such, mate, I've known you for a while. I had no idea. And this again is the point. I had no idea you'd been through all these things, mate. I really hadn't.
This is the point, isn't it, Damo? Because I guarantee there's people who are listening to this episode now, and they'll know somebody, but they won't know what they've been through.
Because we don't talk enough. I can't thank you enough, Jack, like everybody else who comes on the show and talks, because what you're doing, I don't think you realise the service that you are providing by doing that. And again, once again, ironically, you're sacrificing yourself because you're exposing yourself to everybody that's listening to this right now, but you're giving people so much strength by doing that. So, mate, I tip me out to you.
Amazing.
I knew you were a top bloke, and I've always, everybody, my missus absolutely adored. First time she ever met Jack, she said, "What a beautiful soul he is."
Oh,
because he emanates kindness. It's in his eyes. He literally. I'm not saying because you're there, Jack. I've told you this in the past. I'm very open about how I talk to people. He's got such a big heart. And you can see in his eyes it's the sincerity and care he has for everybody around him. He just needs to have that same care and sincerity about himself.
Jack, you are wonderful. Before we go, is there anywhere, I know there is, all right, so don't say there's not, is there anywhere that people can go and view your absolutely phenomenal artwork?
Well, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I've just set up a new Facebook page, funnily enough, just for my artwork.
Okay, what's that?
So it's the same on every handle, really. It's just Jack Trathowen Art.
Jack Trathowen Art, and that Trathowen is spelled Trathhowen. Then you've got art.
That's
so please do check it.
It's an awkward name.
Honestly, it may be an awkward name, but I tell you what, you are one hell of a talented guy.
I appreciate it.
It's all good. It's all good. Jack, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been good to, get it out there, because obviously going through all of that when I'm younger, I know I'm not the only person in the world who's gone through bullying and, having to deal with seeing family members who are suffering or going through addiction. So I hope that people can listen and, feel that, you're not the only person who's going through it.
Jack, and just for myself, like I say, I've known you for a while, mate, but I genuinely want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. Before you go, what would you say to a young Jack, and what would you say to somebody listening to this right now who's going through something similar to you? What's your message of hope?
Always be kind to people and always listen to others, because other people will help you if you trust them enough. Even if you don't feel like you can trust someone, any advice is good advice. Just show kindness to people and they'll show you back.
Perfectly said, John.
What a man.
Perfectly said.
What a man.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. What a man. Spot on there. And if you would like to do just the same as Jack, come onto the show and share your own mental health story, then head over to our website at headcasespodcast.co.uk. You'll find all the information and how to get in touch. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in and for your support for this Head Cases podcast.
Thank you so much, everybody. Keep sharing this. Let's build the community like we've been doing. And we really do appreciate each and every single person that's listening. So thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely. And please do share it with your friends and family. You know, just get it out there. And we can all be, as Damo said, we can all be one huge community. And that is fantastic.
Hashtag let's get talking.
Head Cases Podcast, hosted by Damo Sims and Nick Stoppani. Headcasespodcast.co.uk.